Happy Wednesday, everybody. How's everything? Is it Wednesday? That's what my chart says here. I sure hope I'm right. What's the first card of the day? Let's just see. Oh, Bubba. It's Liliana, Untouched by Death. You see that, Dave? You see that, Samantha? You see that? I'm sure there's at least one of you by either of those names watching this video. I'm trying to reach out to you. This is, well, not literally. Don't get any weird ideas. Parasocialism can sometimes get scary. It really can. I'm not literally, I was just guessing people's names. I'm not actually sending. People get weird. Messages to anybody. People are so strange. Liliana, Untouched by Death is the actual first card of the day. You have to say stuff like that as a YouTuber, or else somebody's just going to show up at your house like, you said you were talking to me. No, I'm not. I mean, I'm talking to all of you, but no one specific, right? Anyway. Gotta hammer that out. This is 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. You can +1 Lily to mill 3 cards. If at least one zombie card is milled this way, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. For a -2 here, target creature gets -X till end of turn, X being the number of zombies you control. You get -3 Lily to cast zombie spells from your graveyard this turn. Pretty amazing little ultimate there, considering you can ultimate the turn she comes into play. But you probably don't want to. Right, you probably want to play this plus, or, maybe even minus it, but most likely plus it. And then untap the next turn, use your mana to actually use the ultimate. So, altogether cool. In a zombie deck, it's a removal spell. It is also a way to put zombies in your yard, which I guess you'll want, while also gaining some life, dealing some damage. All decent stuff, man. This showed up in the mono black cube for zombie support, and it turned out to be one of the more powerful cards in the zombie deck in the cube, like better than the zombie anthems and stuff even, because it is untouchable. In fact, just really slick planeswalker here that's still a little less than $3 to get your hands on. That's for a reason. The zombie players are playing it in their decks because planeswalker gives them like an extra dimension, and they want removal spells in their deck, but they also want zombie payoffs, and this gives them both. Right, you've got a lot of zombies in your yard, especially after +1ing her a couple of times, so the -3 can just be gross. Fantastic card here. Obviously very narrow, so I'm not going to give it the highest score in the world. But pretty good, all things considered. I'm going to give it a 5.1, sure. Let's go 5.1 with Lily. Next card, though, is Lunar Avenger. The famous Lunar Avenger. 7 mana for a 2/2 golem with Sunburst. So that means it comes into play with a +1/+1 counter for each color of mana that you use to pay the cost. Remove a +1/+1 counter from him to have him gain your choice of flying, first strike, or haste until end of turn. So, if you pay 7 mana and 5 of it is Wooburg, then you get a 7/7 that you can then make a 6/6 haste. Okay. You can also make it a 5/5 flying haste, I guess. If you want to add flying to it, you probably do most of the time. Is that worth 7 mana? Probably not. Cute card though. It's kind of cute, and like you can put +1/+1 counters on it, and then like have it gain first strike if you want to, or have it gain flying without actually taking that much power off of it, considering you added counters to it. It's cute, but it's not good like at all. Not really. So I'm gonna have to give this. I do like the name. I do like the name, but you're just Moon Knight, aren't you? This is a 2.4 or something, somewhere in that neighborhood. Mazirek, Kraul, Death Priest is our next card of the day from Commander 2015 originally, and still fetching like $7.50 from that set. This secret lair drop right here is $5. Apparently people absolutely hate it so much. So if you want a cheap copy that looks like a magic card, this list copy is $6. 5 mana, 3 a green and a black for a 2/2 legendary insect shaman with flying. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Whenever any player sacrifices any other permanent, so they sacrifice treasures in this, all my guys get large. That's good. That's good. Also, obviously, it works in like, aristocrats decks in green, which I've been playing like Golgari aristocrats in Commander, or at least building a good bit with a Dina Soulsteeper. But this looks like a fun dude too. Order Mazirek. He's not cheap. I'll say that much. He is not cheap. At like $6-7. But I definitely want to do some stuff. I should write Mazirek better than that. It looks like chicken scratch, as we say down here. Mazirek. There. Okay. Yeah, this is really cool. I've never seen this card in my life. So, I just wasn't aware you existed. You'd think I would have seen this on EDA Trek, like looking at Dina stuff, cards that are in Dina. But I have not really come across this, and he's so cool, man. This guy looks busted, dude. Like, 5 mana is a lot, don't get me wrong, but people sack stuff. People sack stuff all the time. Also neat that you can put, like, edict effects into your deck, right? And make people sacrifice stuff, and suddenly all your dudes get larger. That seems good. That actually seems pretty good. I'm going to give Maz a 6.1. I think this is a pretty powerful looking commander, dude. Pretty powerful looking dude to me. And like, you sacrifice treasure tokens and like he gets bigger, or whatever, clue tokens, blood tokens, whatever you got, but like mostly treasure tokens, right? It seems awesome, dude. I want to build around that guy like tonight. It's great. Ashnod's Altar, one of my all-time favorite Magic cards ever, dude. I'm about to overrate the crap out of this. But it's hard to overrate this card. It is very, very good. Originally printed in Antiquities. This is 3 mana for a poly artifact. You can pay 0 and sacrifice one of your creatures to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. This effect is played as an interrupt. You may not sacrifice a creature that is already on its way to the graveyard. How does that read? Nowadays, sack a creature, add 2 colorless. Okay, yeah, that's way more simple. That's what the card actually does. This card is gross. This card is still gross to this day. It is in just about every commander deck that I've ever built. I don't play, like, you know, Altar Dementia. I don't play Phyrexian Altar. Those cards are expensive. It was actually kind of tough to get the 1 copy of Ashnod's Altar that I have, and I'm still kind of mad at the person that sold it to me on TCG Player. They wouldn't do anything to help whatsoever. They basically said, like, you can send the card back, and I'm like, I'm not going to, no, screw you. You know, we'll give you a partial refund. Partial. I paid for an Antiquities version of this card. I paid $15 for an Antiquities version of this card from some such seller or another. I don't even remember their name right now. But they sent me a Chronicles one. They sent me a Chronicles one instead, and I was so mad, dude. And I'm still mad thinking about it. But I'm using that Chronicles one. It's in my LSO core deck right this second. But all that said, I love this card so much. And despite the headache that I went through with that particular seller, who I really hope is gone from TCG Player forever now. Don't do that to people. You're a butthole. Really wanted the Antiquities one, but it doesn't matter. None of this matters. The card itself is half broken, and honestly, more like 5/6 broken. Really is. You get a ton of mana off this. There's so many like infinite tricks with it that you can pull off, just beyond iconic in terms of like aristocrats. Not even outside of Commander. You know, this card had a life way before Commander in the old days, where it was still broken, even though there wasn't that much broken stuff you could do. Free mana is always good. So, yeah, there were loops back then. You know, this card is probably the actual reason why I like aristocrats as much as I do. Because this one really, this activated like a core part of my memory way early on in my Magic playing life when I was like 11 years old. I love this thing so much, dude. But beyond my, you know, subjective love for it, it's objectively a crazy Magic card. So I'm going to give Ashnod's Altar an 8.1 and leave it at that. I think it deserves every scrap of that, and some of you may argue more, really. We'll move on to Void Snare. It's a fine Magic card. Magic 2015 is the only time this was printed. It's a sorcery, and it costs a single blue mana. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Not terrible. You know, sorcery speed hurts this a good bit. One of the best things about these 1 mana like tempo effects that bounce is a lot of them are instant speed, and you can use them to screw your opponent up at key moments in the game. Void Snare, you can't necessarily do that, but it trades off that utility for being able to just bounce anything, which is honestly gross. Especially when people are trying to resolve, you know, 4 to 6 mana artifacts and enchantments, and this just invalidates that play. For at least a turn, for a single mana. That can feel bad. So Void Snare's not terrible. I will give this a 4. I think there are much better bounce effects that I would rate higher, honestly, but Void Snare's not bad. Runeclaw Bear is up next. This is just a Grizzly Bears with cool art. This is, you know, 2 mana, 1 in the green for a 2/2 bear. That's it. So what would I give Grizzly Bears realistically? Like a 1.1, you know what I mean? I guess I'll give this the same thing. 1.1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, just making sure I was keeping count correctly. This is Grixis Grimblade from Alara Reborn here. Seems like a It almost sounds like a legendary name to me for whatever reason. It's Grixis Grimblade. This is a black mana and also an Is-It hybrid, so 2 total mana for a 2/1 zombie warrior. As long as you control another multicolored permanent, Grimblade gets +1/+1 and has Death Touch. So people actually played this card a little bit back in the day because it's a 2 mana 3/2 Death Touch very, very easily. Like on your 3rd turn, right as you get to actually officially attack with it, you paid 2 mana for a 3-power Death Touch, and that's still a good rate, so imagine the rate that it was 15 years ago, you know what I mean? So, really slick card here, but, you know, not actually that special, especially in a modern context. But still okay. I'm going to just slap like a 4 on it and kind of move on, because I'm always going to have a little bit of love for it. I really am. You can play it in red-black, you can play it in blue-black, you can play it in Grixis, you know, but it's all the most play in red-black. We'll move on to Lich-knights Conquest. This is actually kind of tough to score. Honestly, this is the art that I'm most used to now with this card in paper, because I've ended up in possession of like more bundles, more Wilds of Eldraine bundles than like any other bundle in the last like 5 years. You know, I've had a couple of people give them to me just for Christmas, and even in the middle of the year, people are like, "Hey, I saw this and thought it was up your alley. Here's a bundle," and it's just like, for whatever reason, I ended up with 1 million Wilds of Eldraine bundles. And they all come with this Lich-knights Conquest. I've got like 8 of these at this point in real life. But it's a cool magic card, man. 5 mana, 4 and a black for a sorcery. Sack any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens. Return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So 5 mana sounds like a lot for this, but you're reanimating multiple things at a time. You're just basically bargaining as many things as you want to, and bringing that many things back. And that can be super broken, right? That can be better than a card like Push-Pull, right? Especially nowadays, in Standard with the Overlords, I find this to be pretty good, because you can sacrifice, you know, an Overlord to it, and then get that same Overlord that you sacrificed back with it, which is a really fun little trick that tends to work a good bit of the time. You know, you play like Overlord of the Balemerc on 2 with its impending cost, or Overlord of the Hauntwoods on 3 with its impending cost, and that's especially good. You play Hauntwoods on 3, and then on turn 4, you should be able, because you ramped, right? You should be able to sacrifice the Overlord of the Hauntwoods to itself and then get it right back, along with anything else you happen to have in your graveyard, or anything else that you can sacrifice to get more stuff back, right? So I think Lich-knights actually lines up interestingly in Standard, but once we get to Commander, it can start doing some really, really cool things, you know? You can set up a lot better in Commander. You can really get a lot of, like, value off of this, again, because you're given a little bit more breathing room. You built your deck around setting it up, and it's just a little easier, I think, in Commander with the breadth of cards you have available to you to make this card actually do something. You're obviously still going to have to draw into it. You know, that's going to be a problem in your 100-card singleton deck, but, you know, despite all that, I still think it's probably worth playing Lich-knights Conquest, because by the time you do draw it, you'll be in a position where you can get a few things back with it fairly consequence-free, right? So I really like this. I'm going to give it a 5 and just kind of leave it at that. We won't call it the honorary 5, but I do think it's a stronger reanimation spell than people give it credit for. I do. Royal Assassin's the next card, everybody. Royal Assassin. Royal Assassin. Still $10. 11 really to buy from Revised. Even 4th edition will cost you $3. This is an iconic card that we honestly don't talk about enough nowadays. I feel like, you know, Hypnotic Spectre, come on down. Shivan Dragon, come on down. You know, there's definitely iconic cards. Sarah Angel, we all remember you. But there are some cards from back in the day that were super icon status and have kind of faded a little bit thanks to the sands of time. And I think Royal Assassin is in danger of that sort of fate. But if you've already read ahead here and you've seen what the card does, you'll note that it's extremely powerful even in a modern context. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 black for a 1/1 assassin. It's Human Assassin. You can tap it to destroy a tapped creature. Destroy target tapped creature on a 3 mana guy. Really good. If you can give him haste, he's even better because he just comes out of nowhere, you know. In any sort of game where your opponent is trying to, you know, make combat exchanges with you, Royal Assassin just kind of sits there and patiently waits for them to attack. You know? In some ways, Royal Assassin is one of the unsung reasons why Sarah Angel was such a good card back in the day. A lot of people played Royal Assassin. Like a lot of people, especially considering you can Dark Ritual and get your Royal Assassin down on turn 1 and just dare them to attack for the rest of the game. It doesn't die to terror. It's really, really good magic card. They have to swords it or bolt it. And if they don't have that, then they're in trouble playing creatures, right? So the fact that Sarah Angel had vigilance meant that they could never kill it with their Royal Assassin. You just fly over the Royal Assassin, right, and kill them, never having to worry about it assassinating the Sarah Angel. That was a real reason why Sarah mattered. The vigilance mattered. We didn't call it vigilance back then, but it mattered. But Royal Assassin just... I don't even have to give this the honorary 5. I still think that even in a modern, like, casual context, 2025, or casual commander, 2025 context, this is still a really, really abusable card, especially if you have ways of untapping it over, you know, a turn cycle, or ways of forcibly tapping your opponent's creatures down. That's also really good. Note that we have Agatha's Soul Cauldron in the lexicon now, so now you can give any creature this ability, which is just absolutely gross. I just think Royal Assassin has a lot to do, outside of like old school, you know, somewhat powered cubes and stuff. This card could have a real life in Commander, and it just kind of doesn't. And that's surprising. Still looks super slick too, man. This Tom Waterstrand art, really cool looking. I've seen people bag this art before, but there's something about it I really like. I really do. But anyway, I could gush about this card all day, and I kind of feel like doing that, but I'm not going to belabor it too much. Royal Assassin is a 6.5. You do have to wait a whole turn to actually strike with it, but I promise it's worth the wait. Like most of the time, once you actually get the card online and ready to go. The threat of activation on this card defines threat of activation. Look up threat of activation in the freaking dictionary. Royal Assassin's right there, dude. So really makes people think second guess, think twice about attacking or doing anything. You know, tapping down a lot of elves. So, God, I love you, Royal Assassin, and I miss you. I miss you a lot. I don't have to order you. I've already got a copy. Next is Forest. Doesn't count. Breaker of Armies is our final card of the day, though. This is from Battle for Zendikar. It is 8 mana for a 10/8 Eldrazi. All creatures able to block it do so. So it might go down on blocks, or it might not, and just kill everything on your opponent's side of the table. That seems pretty good in this draft environment. Doesn't it? You know, like, Battle for Zendikar draft. There were a lot of, like, 10 mana Eldrazi in that set. Just nuts. But still, this isn't like the worst thing in the world, especially in your like Commander Eldrazi deck. It's got a built-in lure, so like all your other huge dudes just get through. Let's kind of go. I don't hate this. I'm gonna give it a 4. Just a 4. It costs like a lot. That's the only reason it only gets a 4. But I like built-in lures. I think they too are underrated. Lures are good abilities. But, you know, give them Death Touch. Cook. You know, not bad. But that is all I've got for today. I spent a lot of time on a Royal Assassin, so I got to pack it in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.